Welcome to the Audience Converter Podcast, the podcast for converting your audience from strangers to loyal fans. We dive deep and discuss how entrepreneurs, consultants, and coaches can level up their business to help more people in the world. Now here's your host, the creator of the Audience Conversion Method, Kimberly Weitkamp.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Audience Converter Podcast. I'm Kimberly Weitkamp, your host, conversion copywriter, and marketing strategist. Today, we're going to talk about something really important for all businesses, and that is how to manage your content. And to help me talk about this today, I have a wonderful guest lined up. Her name is Gwendolyn Gay. She has hosted a tech channel and grew it to 80 million views and 600,000 subscribers and a live national television spot before moving on to form her own company. She is now a content creation strategist and founder of Simplified Content, where she is helping busy brands and business owners create more content for more platforms with less effort. Through lots of testing and months without creating content for her audience, she finally created a system for consistent content creation. She shares with her students how she's able to post consistently to YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and email her subscribers with only 2 hours of work a month. And boy, am I really interested to hear how she manages to do all of that. So Gwendolyn, thank you so much for coming and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear about this 2 hours of work a month bit because, man, that's a lot of channels and a lot of them think, for me at least, it seems like, oh, that's so much content. I've got like the 2 or 3 that I dial in. So, tell me a little bit about how you kind of came to be this founder of Simplified Content. What brought you to figuring out this magic sauce for only 2 hours of work a month to create all of this content?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, you mentioned I was part of a big channel. I was the content curator and host for 4 years of a large tech channel out in California. Super fun job. I loved it. But it was time for me to move on, and there was just no room for me to get any bigger. And I just felt this calling to start my own business. So when I did, I went into helping influencers run their YouTube channels because I knew YouTube really well. And so I did that. And while I was doing that, I was like, okay, but these people are paying me. So my content can come later. So I think service providers have a really hard time with creating their own content. They may know all the strategies and they know exactly how to do it, but they just don't. And it's usually because there's demands from their life or from their clients, and there's no immediate ROI, on that time. So I fell into that trap of I couldn't scale my business. I couldn't find more clients. I just didn't have time for anything else. I kind of maxed myself out with my client work. And so I ended up stopping content altogether for over 6 months. I closed down my Facebook group that I thought I needed, and I stopped creating for my YouTube channel, and I stopped, my Instagram was just a joke for a while. There was nothing, there was a ghost town. So I stopped creating altogether, and it was because I had this weird standard coming from a really large YouTube channel where, I was using the wrong equipment. I was using this really fancy, awesome equipment for my channel because I thought that was the standard that people knew me from. So I needed to keep up with that. And so it put me in this place where it would take me over a week to make one YouTube video. And I was so stuck because it would take me too long to produce one piece of content. And so I just stopped altogether until I could find a way to be consistent. And even when I got to the point where I felt like I might be able to post something and I'm like, I have something great to say, I was afraid to post it because if you post, then you got to show up the next week too. You can't just sporadically post because then you lose that know, like, and trust factor. No one can trust you if you're not going to show up continually for them. So out of this trial and error, I did a lot of figuring things out, watching other influencers and realizing that it's not just, consistency. It's got to be pretty good value too. You can't just put crap out there. So it was a long time of trying to figure out, am I batching? Am I repurposing? How do I make this work? So through that, I figured it out. And And I have this system that really works for me, and I'm able to post consistently on all the platforms I need to post to have to grow my influence and my authority, and also to build that community around what I'm doing. And I realized that was my calling, that there were plenty of service providers just like me that were struggling to make content for themselves. It's not that they didn't know how; it's that they didn't have a strategy for keeping up with it and showing up for themselves. Especially, I found that it's really funny, the people who are, social media managers and, people creating content for other people just can't do it for themselves. So I was like, I can't keep this quiet. I got to tell other people about it. It's really important. So that's kind of how it was born out of that
Absolutely.
struggle.
You've said so many great things. And one of the biggest ones that you're talking about, right, is service providers just not having the time. It's not a matter of not knowing how to do it, right? But often you'll find, as I said earlier, I'm a copywriter, marketing strategist. I'm a service provider. And, it's that famous phrase, right? The cobbler's kids have no shoes. Because,
So
it's a
true.
matter of you're doing all of this stuff for all of your clients. It's really hard to find the time, especially as you mentioned, right? With you can't see that immediate ROI. So, and that's the, return on investment. You can't see that immediate, if I do this within a day, I'm going to have X number of sales or X number of new clients. It is hard to find all of the time. And, a week to do a YouTube video, I think that's what a lot of people have a perception of is, it's going to take so long to do video. I can't do it. I can't do it because it's just going to take too long. So tell me a little bit about, what you kind of discovered through that process. Like you mentioned a couple of words. You mentioned batching and repurposing, which are both different ways for you to kind of create content in a way. So can you kind of just explain those a little bit?
Yeah. So batching and repurposing are only two of my 5 point kind of program that I teach people. It's just a blueprint that I follow, and it totally works. And it's like I kept finding these little pieces, and I would try one thing, and then I try to combine it with something else, and it wasn't till I combined all five to really make it all make sense. And for me, what it comes down to is a really great organizing of my assets. So I'm not wasting time there, but also getting to the point where I could outsource. And again, for a service provider who does this for themselves, they're like, I could save them money and just do it myself. But if you're not doing it, it is worth the outsourcing. And most, you can usually find someone who wants to learn from you anyway. If that's something you're currently doing, they may want to jump into the business too, and they may want to learn from you and become your assistant in a way. And so you can do it pretty affordably. So anyway, so organizing, outsourcing, repurposing, batching, but the main key that was kind of keeping me from doing this consistently, because I would batch enough and then run out of my batch. And I'd realize, oh gosh, I ran through my whole bank of content. And so I got to jump back on the wagon and make some more.
So
So
just to clarify, can you explain a little bit what batching is?
Yeah, absolutely. So batching is where, for me, I create I create 3 months worth of content basically in one sitting, and that's for my YouTube channel because that's my main source of content comes from YouTube. For you, it may be a blog. For you, it's a podcast. But for someone else, it may be a blog or a live video. Whatever your main piece of content is that everything is deriving from is really the only thing you need to batch, not all these other pieces. So batching for me is sitting down and batching out my scripts one day for YouTube. And then the next time I batch, I sit down and I record as many as I can get through. For me, when I came from that large channel, I actually had 2 kids while I was on that channel, and I would take 3-month maternity leaves. And so I understood batching very well because they never missed a beat. They never missed a week of uploads while I was on maternity leave. And it's because I batched so much content. So I already knew that concept. And how much it could give you so much freedom, but there were so many other pieces than just batching, and you can't just batch once and then not keep up with that batch. in order to, because you run out of content eventually.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
always the problem, right? But it is one great way of, and it also helps a lot of people when you focus on one thing, right? Not doing anything else. You're going to sit down for 2, 3 hours, 45 minutes, whatever that time slot is, right? And you're just going to do that one thing. You're just going to write your YouTube scripts. You're just going to record your YouTube videos. And it makes it
Right.
a lot easier, actually, to
Oh,
kind of get all that
absolutely.
stuff out.
Yeah, yeah, and it stops you from overcomplicating too, because I think most people, when you sit down and you think, okay, today is my content creation day, and you sit down and do it, and you think, okay, but I need content for this platform, this platform, this platform, and for this platform, I don't have enough pictures for Instagram, let's say. All right, well, I got to see if a friend can take some pictures of me. And then you go into, oh, well, I need to write my scripts for all my lives. And you just start overcomplicating it. And I think my program definitely, for someone like me, I needed that focus. I needed that plan that was like, sit down and focus on this right now, and then you can focus on that. And it just made so much more sense. And it didn't allow me to overcomplicate it and just get in my head way too much about it.
Absolutely. Simplification is the key to getting any kind of part of your business up, right? The more complicated you make something, the less likely you are to stick to it, the less likely you are to do it consistently. And as you were speaking about earlier, right, that's so important with marketing of any kind. In business in general, right, you have to show up every day. And so if you're going to send out an email once a week, that means you have to send it out once a week. If you start missing randomly, then people notice, and that kind of
Yeah.
breaks the trust a little bit. So
Yeah, absolutely.
with content, you got to do that know, like, and trust factor with consistency.
Yeah, and that can be really hard for someone who's thinking of broadening beyond one platform. And I truly believe that you should have a main platform. But the content strategy for all the platforms right now is not about how often you pump out content. It's about connecting with your audience and having those one-on-one conversations in comments or in DMs or whatever the case may be. So you have to make yourself available to that communication. And if you're so busy with the content creation piece, you're not going to show up for them the way that the algorithm's going to reward you. So this process has actually freed me up to be available for the way the algorithm really rewards me, and my audience starts seeing more of my content because I'm available to actually have conversations with them. And all I have to do is show up for a video that I created 3 months ago and just be in my comments for an hour. Um,
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
also, that's a great way to build a great business too, is if you want more referrals, if you want more people to stay with you longer, you want to build that community, you want to build that communication. And it's a key part of growing. So it makes it really great when the content creation kind of, it becomes this one thing you do for a short period of time for a specific time period. And the rest of the time you can actually focus on connecting with those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that you've got outsourcing, you've got organizing your assets, repurposing, which for our audience that just means if you've done something really big, then you break it in or reuse it in other ways, like blog post, make the quote into an Instagram image, that kind of thing. So what was that one key that you seem to be missing?
The one key that was missing when I put it all together and it still wasn't working and I still wasn't keeping up with it, and I get down to the bottom of my content bank, it was accountability. And it wasn't until I added, as entrepreneurs, we get into the space to really not have someone hanging over our shoulder and checking up on me. But for me, it wasn't that I suppose I wasn't being lazy. I was just putting the wrong things first. I would put my client work, obviously, over anything else. I have two young kids who are non-school age. They're not even, they just now got into preschool this year. So I had no childcare, and I would consistently, say, okay, these people have to live and they are dependent on me. And then I also have over here the clients that are paying me. So again, I wasn't being lazy. I just wasn't putting myself and my business and the growth of my business first. And I had to find that way of it not taking too much time, or it just wouldn't be a priority for me. And the way that it had to to get to the point where it wasn't taking too much time is I had to get into what I like to call vacation mode, which is where your content is going out whether you show up or not. And in order to get there, I needed someone who was going to be a friend and say, hey, how's your content creation? Are you hitting your goals? Are you, and we held each other accountable. And then I realized, okay, this is it. As entrepreneurs, it can be really isolating. And it's nice to have someone, just checking in on you, making sure you're on task and on for your goals. Because if there is no immediate ROI, we're going to put it to the end of the list. The urgent always trumps the important. So it wasn't until that. And then I realized that after I created this course where I show people the system, I was like, well, how are they going to find an accountability partner? So I created a membership with accountability and batch days, so that people could have that extra piece that was missing for me, where I am checking up on them and I'm saying, hey, you told me this was your goal. Are you in vacation mode yet? And after you're out of vacation mode, you can either stay in vacation mode and you can enjoy that and soak that up and just coast, with that, or you can go into beast mode, which is what I like to call beast mode, which is, where you can start deciding to write a book, create a course, finding ways to pitch yourself as a expert on other blogs or podcasts or, TV shows, whatever it may be. But it gives you the freedom to start building your empire, because you're not having to create every day. If you're creating every day, you're doing it wrong. You're going to totally get to this point where you're burnt out on just trying to connect with your audience. So yeah, accountability was huge for me. And it got me to this place where I was able to just create more value for my audience, because I wasn't having to create that everyday value.
I love what you just said there about creating value for your audience. And that's because it's such an important part of, what we do, right? It's, people like people. They like to buy from people. But when creating that content becomes such I wouldn't want to say burden, but it becomes a difficulty because you have to find the time and find the ability and make sure you get it done. Then, you're not as engaged with your community and you're not as there and present when people are interacting with you. So I liked your phrases, beast mode and vacation mode, where well, and it's true though, because, that's one of the things, right? If we're not there, our business is still there. So even if I take a week off to go to a conference or something, I'll still get emails in. I'll still get, my podcast still goes out, and it's got to, because if you break that consistency, then, it breaks the trust a little bit. But I like what you were talking about with vacation mode, where you can relax, or then you can use, okay, how else can I provide value? What else can I create? But that's not a consistent thing, but that's one of those bigger things, like a course.
Right. Your content's still going out while you're writing that book, and you're not having to put that extra effort towards the daily content that's going out. And it's not interrupted by you writing a book, which is I think people need to get to that point so that they feel comfortable putting more effort towards, creating the course they thought they've always needed, or developing that membership, or whatever it is, to where they can actually scale in a different way. But you can't do it if no one knows who you are. So that content needs to continually keep going out. And I know I got to the point where I was like, well, I can't scale because nobody knows who I am. And I didn't feel like I could create a course if nobody knew who I was. So I needed to get to the point where it was going out consistently without my a huge effort every day. And I don't know if you've ever been in this place where, for me, I would sit at my computer and go, what should I talk about today? What would be valuable to my audience? And it was such a time suck.
Oh, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. About a year ago, I switched over to what I call theme days. So there are days I work on client work and days I work on my own business. And, it was hard to make that shift, that mindset shift, but especially, this is my second podcast, and without that ability, without setting aside the time and being like, this is what you're working on, there's no way I would have launched 2 podcasts and,
right.
stayed consistent with emailing my list. And I did a transition in my business. There are all these different things that were only possible because I was able to say, okay, I have to focus on my business now. And it has to be, I am my own client, because if I stop, then no one else is going to do it for me. So I need to figure out a way to make it more consistent.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely, I ran into that way too many times. I was like, okay, well, I've got to know ahead of time what's going out. What is the topic I'm talking about today? Cause I can't just sit here for 5 minutes, thinking of a topic and then decide what it's going to be.
Oh,
What am
yeah.
I going to say?
And that 5 minutes becomes 30 minutes. And then you're like, oh, I'll
Oh,
go look
for
for
sure. And then you
ideas. And
start
then suddenly it's
researching. Yeah.
3 hours down the drain. You've got nothing on that sheet of paper, but boy, do you know what your friends are doing on Facebook, right? Uh,
So true.
so important. And, the accountability part, I think, is a real key part for any entrepreneur, because there is this mindset that we have to do it on our own. And it's, we're failing somehow if we're asking for somebody else to check in on us. But, I've got accountability partner every day, hey, this is the stuff you're going to get done. Did you do it? Did you not? And it doesn't have to even take that long. It's 5 minutes in the morning. It's 5 minutes in the afternoon. But
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference when, they say that if you just say it in your mind, that's one thing. If you say it out loud, that's another thing. If you write it down, that's even more powerful. If you share it with someone, that's even more powerful. So,
Yeah.
it's that progression of, well, how committed are you to actually doing this? And, putting it out there for somebody else to say, did you do it? Yes or no? It's very important.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I feel like I had the accountability. I didn't need a lot of accountability as a just self-driven person, but I didn't realize that it wasn't about laziness. Like I said before, it was really that I was just putting the urgent over the important, and there were so many things that changed as an entrepreneur. Like I was a manager in the in the real world, I guess, job type of situation. And then I start outsourcing, and that was so difficult for me to just give control of my message to someone else. That was so hard. So it's like you just have to realize that becoming an entrepreneur, especially if you're coming from a business background, things change, and you have to really learn that a different mindset as an entrepreneur, and having boundaries with your business. So if you're having to come up with content every day, you're doing it wrong. And I always say, friends don't let friends post every day. Like there should be a post that goes out every day, but you shouldn't be the one posting it every day. It should be on a schedule, and it should already be, figured out a month in advance, and it just goes out naturally, and you just show up.
Absolutely.
You be the business owner, the CEO of your company, and do what only you can do. You can't outsource that part. That is, you have to be the face of your company. And so, you got to outsource the little things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've talked about so many great things so far, batching, about repurposing, about the importance of organizing, and how to outsource. So, we're almost out of time. So if you had one thing you want people to, finish listening to this episode, go out and do it, what would that one key takeaway or action item be?
So I think whenever I talk to someone who is just starting a business, and they're not very clear on who they're helping or how they're offering their services, my one thing that I would say to that person is usually just start creating something. And this is really difficult for someone who doesn't know who they're talking to, and again, how they're helping them. But that will become very clear. Action creates clarity. So if you just go out there and start talking to an audience and start talking to them about the things that like the back of your hand, and you enjoy talking about, eventually you will start seeing this clear path of how you need to help them in a way that also benefits your bottom line. So if you already have that clear pathway of how you help people and how you make money, then the other side of that is start building your content to where it is starting to run itself. This is really important, because then you can start creating more value for your audience than than just the normal everyday content that's coming into. You gotta think your audience is getting bombarded every day on all platforms. So what else could you create for them? And you can't if you're not reaching them every day. So how can you be in their DMs? One of your goals shouldn't be the vanity metrics, how many followers you should have. It's how many DMs can I get this month? How many close, interpersonal connections can I make this month on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you are putting your content out. LinkedIn, I mean, that's a fantastic platform for finding business. So create now, whether you know what you have to offer people or you don't, it's going to create clarity. So just get out there and start talking to your audience, ask them what they want to see from you. And I promise it will come to you and it'll just be like a lightning bolt. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what I need to create for my audience.
It's a fantastic action item. I like what you said about action creates clarity, right? Because if you just keep thinking about it and never taking action, then you're never going to move from where you are to where you want to be. So, Gwendolyn, I want to say thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom and explaining a little bit about how we can get content creation down to 2 hours a month. So, if people want to learn more about you or your program or how they can work with you or learn a little bit more and get a little bit more of your wisdom, where can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
So, as we said at the beginning, I have multiple platforms and I am simplified content on all the platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I have a business page on LinkedIn, or you can find me at Gwendolyn Gay on LinkedIn. So that's where you can find me. And I have a program that I offer all year round. I do have some select programs that are only open for enrollment a few times a year, but I have one that's open year round, and that's I love this one. I created it basically for myself, and I knew other people would benefit from it. But
That's
it's
kind.
I know, I know. It's helped me create a year of content in one day. I don't have a lot of time, so I was able to do this in one afternoon. So you should be able to do it in just a day or a half of a day. But it basically helps you create strategic content. It's not just your topics and your ideas that you should go for so that you're not having to waste time thinking about it. It's also strategically wrapped around your business goals, your content goals, who you're hoping to collaborate with that year, those types of things. So it really helps you get in the zone of not having to think about what you should post. So I that should help you. It's simplifiedcontent.com/annual plan.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us. And again, if you want to check Gwendolyn out, be sure to check her out on all of her social channels and at Simplified Content. And those links will be in the show notes. Gwendolyn, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Audience Converter Podcast. For more information and important links about today's show or for access to our website, visit theaudienceconverter.com. Take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.